Welcome, this is Carrie Rhinehart with 5-Minute Math. Today I'm going to be looking at writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. If you're following along in the book, this is from Algebra 1, Unit 3, Lesson 11. So in the previous lesson I talked about writing equations of lines, and this is very similar except we're adding in the fact that we're going to write equations of parallel or perpendicular lines. So just a quick recap. Parallel lines are lines that never intersect, like this. This line and this line are parallel. They'll never cross. Okay? And from a few lessons ago, you learned that parallel lines, they have the same slope. If you notice, they're going from one point to the next. You would rise the same amount, run the same amount. Rise and run, that same slope. So you're going to have the same slope when they're parallel. So the m's will be equal. Now, with perpendicular lines, those are two lines that cross and create a right angle. So for example, if I had this line, the perpendicular line would look something like this. If you notice here, when they cross, they make this 90-degree angle, a right angle. Well, perpendicular lines have opposite, reciprocal, I'm going to just abbreviate there, slopes. Opposite reciprocal slopes. So if the slope of, let's say, this line right here is 2/3, then the slope of the other line would be -3/2, because you flip it and change the sign. One of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative, and you flip the numerator and denominator. That's what opposite reciprocal slopes mean. All right, so let's jump into an example. Okay. So just keep that in mind. The main thing about parallel and perpendicular lines is you need to understand that parallel have the same slope and perpendicular have opposite reciprocals. All right, so first of all, let's say I give you y equals 1/3 x minus 2, and I ask you to find the slope of the line that's parallel to this. Okay? Well, if it's parallel to this line, that means they're going to have the same slope. Well, the slope for this line is 1/3. Therefore, the slope of any line that's parallel to this will also have a slope of 1/3. That's for parallel. This symbol means parallel. Now, if I ask you to find the slope of the line that's perpendicular to this right here, it would have opposite reciprocal slopes. So, again, this line has a slope of 1/3, but the perpendicular, which that's the symbol for perpendicular, that slope would be an opposite reciprocal. So that means I need to flip the 3 and the 1, which is 3/1. And since this one is positive, the other one needs to be negative. Okay, they've got to be opposite, so one has to be positive, one has to be negative. And 3/1 you can just leave as 3, so the slope of the perpendicular line would be -3. Now let's actually write an equation. Let me erase this. Okay. Let's say they give us y equals 2x minus 5, and they want us to write the equation of the line that's parallel to this, parallel to that line, and goes through the point -2, 1. Okay, so when we write the equation of a line, usually we use point slope formula. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. And we need y sub 1, we need m, and we need x sub 1. Well, we've got x sub 1 and y sub 1. That's these here. And we can easily find the slope. Okay? The slope of this line is 2. And we want the parallel slope. Well, remember, slopes of parallel lines are the same. So the slope for this one is also going to be 2. So now we can just plug it into the point slope formula. We get y minus, well, y sub 1 is 1, equals m we found out is 2, parentheses x minus x sub 1 is -2. And then we're just going to simplify and get it into slope-intercept form. So x minus -2 becomes plus, and then I can distribute. So I get y minus 1 equals 2x plus 4. and then I can add 1 to both sides to get y by itself. So we get y equals 2x plus 5. That is the equation of the line that is parallel to this line and goes through the point -2, 1. All right, let's do one more where we have to write the equation of the line that's perpendicular. All right, so let's say we're still dealing with that same line. We're using the line y equals, 2x minus 5. And we want the line that is perpendicular to that line and goes through the point -2, 1. Okay. This looks very similar to the last one, except for now we're doing perpendicular. So since the slope of this line is 2, the slope of our perpendicular line would be the opposite reciprocal. Well, if you need to, put this 2 over 1, because you can always put a whole number over 1. So the opposite reciprocal would be to flip that and get 1 over 2, and then we also have to make it negative, because it's opposite. And then our x sub 1 and y sub 1 are here. So again, we're going to plug this in to point slope formula. So y minus, well, y sub 1 is 1, m is -1/2, and x sub 1 is that -2. Now we just need to simplify again. So this becomes plus 2, and I'm going to distribute the -1/2 here. So we get y minus 1 equals -1/2 x, and then -1/2 times 2 is -1. And then I can add 1 to both sides. We end up with y equals -1/2 x, and then -1 plus 1 cancels out, so it's just y equals -1/2 x. You could put plus 0, but really you don't need to leave that plus 0 there. All right, that's it for this lesson. I hope you guys have a great day.